Vocal topic of the week 9, vocal health. Super important topic. I'm sorry I'm late with my video. I have a good reason though. I'm moving! So I'm painting. Vivian and I are going to be over there. Next week we're going to be living there. So I took off the week of teaching to move. But I wanted to make sure I did a video. I have so many students in musicals right now around the area that are either open or just closed or opening their shows. And I just want to talk a little bit about vocal health. So I'm taking a break from the move, yeah. So let me talk about that. I'm thankful, and I do pride myself on that over the last 13 years of doing this full time. I've never, knock on wood, had a student develop vocal nodules, polyps, or hemorrhage a blood vessel under my tutelage as a teacher. I'm not saying that's not possible. I mean, we do some very athletic things with our voices, and just like any athlete playing a sport, it's possible to have an injury even with great technique. But I really am thankful that the people I've worked with over the years have learned how to be mindful about their vocal health, and also you know, we've really I keep a good ear out for warning signs and stuff in the way I listen for each week for lessons. So vocal topic. Let's talk about vocal health a bit. Let me get to the immediate things that are most important for you to know. Things that will blow out your voice are the 3 twos: too high, too loud, and too long, and any combination of those. Okay, learning how to listen to your body when your body talks to you about when it's tired is super important. You have to know when to shut up. You have to know when the vocal folds are used and when they're communicating that it's time, it's time to be quiet. Your vocal folds go through just like any other tendon, muscle, fiber combination in your body. They go through natural physiological changes as you sing. So you think about a muscle, you think about you working out your bicep, and then as time goes on, your bicep becomes swollen, it becomes engorged with blood, and then if you keep pushing it, it goes to muscle failure. That's kind of how muscles work. Your vocal folds are the same way. As you sing, even with the greatest technique in the world, if you're singing high energy music, your vocal folds will begin to naturally engorge with blood. That's a part of the process. And as they do, they swell, they become more elastic, and they stretch a little better once they start to engorge with blood as the continued pull happens. And as that happens, there will become a point where the muscle, or where the membrane and the tendon and the soft tissues will become inflamed enough that they will start to slightly interrupt each other's vibration, or you'll feel a little huskiness, like you'll feel like there's a little hiss of air. That little hiss of air, that's your vocal folds inside of there, like where my middle knuckle are. It's like they're both puffy, so they're hitting each other. And what that is that's your body. That's one of the ways your body starts to tell you your cords are getting big. So, and think about that's where you learn about nodules. Is if you got big old fat vocal folds that have really swollen in there, that middle part right where my knuckle is, I hold the camera with my other fan, that start hitting the other knuckle. And when those two knuckles start rubbing together, eventually doing it fast enough and long enough, and those vocal folds are happening really fast, they're vibrating very fast in there, they start to rub against each other. And when that happens, it first starts off as like a tiny little blood blister type thing, and then it turns into a callus. And that's what a nodule is it's puffy vocal folds rubbing against each other, and the two puffiest parts start rubbing and create a callus. Okay, and so learning though, and by the way, think about a callus. You have to actually earn a callus. For you, it's not like one day you'll be like la da 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 da, and then I've got nodules. That may happen with a polyp, or that may happen with a vocal hemorrhage, but that doesn't happen with nodules. You've got to be ignoring some signs at some point that you're earning a nodule. Okay. And nodules really come from vocal abuse, and they come on both vocal folds. All right. So as you start to sing, when you feel your voice getting a little husky, or you feel your voice starting to get a little phlegmy, then what you need to do, like that's your body shooting saliva and mucus down there to lubricate those vocal folds, so that there's less viscosity in the contact of them. Okay. So that's your body saying, hey, we got a problem down there. Let's chill out. And when you get to that state and you feel your voice is phlegmy, that's not crazy. I mean, even the best technicians I've heard who sing intense music, you know, you do an hour and a half recital of big Verdi arias. I don't care who you are. Well, I'm sure there are exceptions to this, but there you would be an oddball if you didn't have some natural physiological changes in your voice. That if you weren't by the end of singing big Verdi arias like, whoo, okay, whew, that was a workout, you know, which would be normal. Like you should feel that way. This is just any part of your body, you know. And if you're doing a high intensity thing with it, it's going to go through changes. Now, if we're doing not as intense things, your voice will go through less changes. So let me paint you a picture. I had a great talk this was when I was teaching in Denver. I was at World Voice Day. They had this I forget Andre Reed was maybe his name. It was a great otolaryngologist office in Denver. If you remember, put the link below because it was a great place to go for singers who have disorders and issues, and really great. So I went in there, I was talking to them about vocal health, and I was talking with this otolaryngologist, and he said to me, think about it like this, Tim. Think about it that every student every day has a vocal health bank account or a vocal stamina bank account. And, you know, every sound that you make with your voice costs a certain amount of vocal health. So speaking lightly like this, if I speak in a very soft tone, let's say I have $10 in my vocal bank account of vocal stamina. Speaking like this is costing me maybe half a penny a minute. I could speak like this for 10 hours straight and still not have any inflammation in my vocal folds or lubricating of my vocal folds from being overtired or huskiness. You know, I could do that. So so that would be a very easy sound. Now, if I were to scream, just start rage screaming, that may be $4 a scream on my $10 of vocal health I have in my bank account. So I scream twice, and I've almost completely tapped out the ability for my vocal folds to have any elasticity and strength for that day. After like 3 screams, I'd be done. That means I'd have to wait pretty much a day before my vocal folds come back down, before the trauma has passed, before they're ready for more vocal action. And if I did that raging scream and then I did one later that night and then I did one the next day, all I'm doing is prolonging that swollen vocal fold, rubbing against the other swollen vocal fold because I didn't ever let the swelling come down. All right? So the real trick when you think about vocal health is to understand what the sound is costing you. And not think about it as much as a matter of right and wrong, because it's really not. People use their voices in all sorts of ways. Some of them are ways that are very free and delicate and don't cost you a lot vocally as far as tiring you out or fatiguing the voice. Other people's careers are based on extremely intense, high pressure singing, and they've sustained that way for years. One of the guys I know that's still singing like that is Ted Neely, Jesus Christ Superstar, the original Jesus. He was screaming high G, well, screaming, he's not really screaming, he's very controlled in the ways he does it, but he's the high G is above high C, still, I think he's 74 now, and there's videos of him on YouTube. He can still sing Gethsemane like he did 30 years ago. It's incredible, or 40 years ago. 50 years ago? 40 years, God, 40 years ago. So, you know, there's a way to do this that we can keep singing like this our whole lives. You know, if we respect our instruments and we know how to listen to the warning signs when we're getting tired. Again, your voice gets tired when it starts feeling phlegmy and husky, or you know, the next stages of tiredness from there would be you feel like your passaggio or transitional areas get really wiggly, like you feel you're getting to another stage of tiredness there. Okay, you should really be quiet. And then from there, it's really like pushing to full-on losing your voice, you know. Now, I do want to talk about one of the things that becomes important as a singer is when you wake up the next day, like after you've had a big sing. I got so comfortable with knowing my voice, and I know that most of the professional singers I know are the same way. You could wake up you wake up in the morning of the day after you sang, and I could go, woo, and just tell by the way that my vocal folds closed on a basic falsetto how much trouble I was in for that day, if my voice was really fried or if I felt like it was comfortable. Because I could tell by how hard it was for me to get the vocal folds to phonate. It's called the phonation threshold, or PT is the word they use in fancy fancy voice teaching. And so it was my PT, my phonation threshold is much higher when the vocal folds are swollen. So it took more steam to get the chords going, you know. And I could tell that right away the morning I woke up. I was like, oh no, this Carmen's going to be tough tonight, you know. Like, and so I was and I was present. I was present to that, that sensation in my voice. And so you will get better and better as you sing, and knowing how tired your voice is and what you're able to do as you get older. And also singing on colds is a tricky thing. I'm going to do probably a video on that. I always say I'm going to do a video, and we'll see if I do them all right. But there's so much to cover in this one with vocal health. I really feel like I need to go further. Last thing I will say is just when you're in rehearsal and you're doing musical theater, and you've got Tech Week, especially because I've got a bunch of Columbia High School kids who are in Beauty and the Beast right now, and I've got kids all over, and like the middle school just closed. There's another middle school opening. So much singing going on, and I want you to know that it's a hard thing for kids sometimes because they get really caught up on impressing the director and wanting to run the show, and also they want to work their voices because they're still learning how to sing, and they want to have good vocal, be able to practice the singing in the show, which you have to do. But you have, if you just had choir, well, let me say that. You really be very careful singing in choir if you're in a musical and you're in Tech Week. If you've got a long choir period and you guys are really drilling stuff, and then you're supposed to go to rehearsal and sing for, do a full run of the show and you're one of the leads, you've got to back off. I mean, you really, should be very mindful of your voice in that way. High school people, you guys, like boys, shouldn't be like full-on singing, energetic singing for more than 45 minutes, an hour a day. And if you're leading those shows, you're using every bit of that right there. And that would be even if you were resting, I have so many, over the years, like 13 years of doing this, I've had hundreds and hundreds of high school kids, boys and girls, blow their voices out Tech Week. Or I go see a high school musical, I'm like, okay, here we go. I don't want to see the Sunday show because everybody's going to be fried by then. And I don't want you guys to have that experience. So you have to listen to your body. It's like, don't be afraid to mark your voices in rehearsal sometimes. And it's very important to do that and know how to mark. Marking is where you just will back off on the air pressure and either drop it down an octave or stay in falsetto for the note when you're rehearsing. Lean on the microphone. If you guys are in the microphone stage, then you can use the microphone for that. But also talk to your director or your music director ahead of time and say, hey, my voice is really tired and I'm concerned if I push it too much today, I might not be fresh for the weekend. So would it be okay if I just mark the songs a bit, or just maybe mark some of the high notes a bit? And just clear it with them, be respectful, because they may say, okay, totally cool to mark it, but would you mind singing out this time because I really need it for whatever, Always be mindful of your directors, but understand that you are the person in charge of your vocal health, okay? And you have to really know when to shut up. And you have to know when to get your ego out of the way and not be afraid to say, hey, I'm sorry, I know that you want me to run this, but if I sing out right now, I can tell that I'm going to be fried tomorrow, and tomorrow we have a show, so I have to be careful, So for kids, it's really important that the ego gets in the way a lot because they want to impress a director, they want to impress you. But you've got to be mindful, guys, of what's happening. Because you blow your voice out on Friday and you've got a show on Sunday, the whole Sunday and Saturday night that you're performing, you're going to be thinking about how to survive the show vocally because you'll be so distracted by it. And that's not fun, especially on an opening weekend, okay? So Tech Week, you have to be super careful. Save your voices. If your teacher's cool with you sitting out of the choir for certain things, let her do that. If you need to, you shouldn't be social a whole lot during Tech Week of shows. You should be chilling out, watching movies, doing homework, resting. You should be vaporizing, steaming, staying away from sick people, okay? You got to treat your body like a temple when you're into performance mode, okay? Now, one last thing I'll say about vocal health, I just want to talk real quick about the differences between the vocal dysfunctions. I know I'm completely switching gears, but I'll probably break these out more later too. Nodules, as I talked about earlier, swollen vocal folds, abuse, earned, you got to do it, build some calluses. Calluses happen, and those calluses, as if you have them when you're a kid, they will they'll likely just kind of go away with vocal speech therapy and proper using your voice properly. Kids get them a lot by yelling. Then if you're an adult or a teenager, it gets a little more complicated. Teenagers still, I think there's more of a chance for them to go away. But if you're an adult and you've had nodules for a long time, likely they'll have to remove them and take them off. Then there's a polyp. A polyp, the difference between a polyp and a nodule, really you want to think about it like the difference between a callus and a blister. A polyp can be caused by vocal abuse. It can also be caused by smoking, and it's an isolated event. It can be caused by an isolated thing happening, like I yelled really loud, and then the blister or polyp thing type of that happened. Okay, but it will, the symptoms of it will be similar to the symptoms of nodules, which will be this kind of husky. It almost feels like you got to jumpstart your voice in certain ranges. It's like the chords don't come together evenly, but they will phonate like in a clean way in certain ranges of your voice, but certain spots there's like an extra vibration in your throat, and you may experience at your break between your chest and head voice like like this big gap in your voice. Then there's a chance, there's a good chance that you've got something going on down there. And so the other ones, so we have nodules, which are the two calluses, the polyp, which is like a blister that could be a 1 or 2. Usually I think they're 1. And then there's a hemorrhaging your blood vessel. And that's like what Adele has had, John Mayer has had, I think Sam Smith, the same thing. And believe it or not, as bad as that one sounds where you're rupturing a small blood vessel on the vocal fold, it's my understanding, and I'm not a doctor, and if you have any issues going on, go see a doctor, or if your voice teacher says there's something going on, go see a doctor. I'm just speaking from my experience with, the years I've been doing this, and my talking to doctors as well. But I'm not a doctor, so I'm not giving you medical advice, okay? But hemorrhages, from my understanding, are the easiest to treat in that they cauterize it, and the vocal folds suffer less potential long-term damage, as opposed to like a nodule. When you remove a nodule, they say like the membrane is like the skin on the back of your hand, like it's very thin. The membrane on the tendon of the vocal fold, and when they remove that, a lot of the light vocal function, like falsetto for men and head voice for women, is dependent upon just a tiny bit of that vocal fold vibrating. And if that tiny bit, that membrane, is disrupted by by cutting into the membrane to remove the callus, it can permanently cause problems for thin vocal fold posture, which is what happened to Elton John. Elton John's falsetto is gone after he had nodule surgery. So it's not always the case. It's really dependent on the person. But that's kind of the deal. That's all I guess I'm going to say about vocal health right now. And I hope this helps. I hope you guys have a great, I know the Beauty and the Beast at Columbia High School. I hope you guys have a great opening weekend. And I look forward to seeing you over at the new house. Vivian and I will be there with cupcakes. Can't wait to show you. Bye.